Hey guys, I'm starting up a new series called Why I Love. It's going to focus on characters and mechanics in fighting games that I, well, love. Under Night in Birth EXE Late CLR, or just UNIclr for short, is my favorite fighting game of all time. If it weren't for the fact that it has delay-based netcode, I'd definitely play it a lot more. Killer Instinct is a close second, but that game doesn't have my favorite character to control of all time. I'm talking about Waldstein. Waldstein is the character that got me to love the big body grappler archetype. Before playing Wald, my only experience with trying grapplers was Zangief in Capcom's various fighters, although it's definitely a bad first impression since Capcom just seems to hate Zangief and I can't seem to find the right way to play him. Also, I do want to note before I actually get into anything, I am not a competitive player at all. This is not a super competitive guide, nor is it meant to be. This is just me talking about a character and occasionally gushing. I've made sure I'm not getting anything objectively wrong, and I might still have missed things. Please, do not take any of my opinions seriously. Starting with system things, Waldstein has 11,500 health, the most in the game. For context, the average health in the game is about 10,500, and average combos seem to do about 2 or 3,000, so he has about half a combo extra worth of health. His walk speed is kinda slow, and he doesn't walk at a constant set speed. I actually kind of like this. While it does make shimmying and playing footsies harder, it gives him the vibe of this big hulking beast moving towards you menacingly, ready to strike. While most characters in this game have a run, Waldstein has a forward dash. And of course, he does have the grappler backdash. Long, slow, but it does have invincibility. While his base movement is kinda slow, he benefits from the system mechanic of Assault, done with 60. This allows him to close gaps really quickly, especially when combined with his big normals. Speaking of, let's move into those. Under Night is a 4-button fighting game. A, B, and C are light, medium, and heavy, and D is normally reserved for system mechanics. Hey, Editing Tenkai here. I didn't have a good take of this in the original recording, but this assumes that you know basic numpad notation. Here's a graphic, and if you look to the left of the screen, my buttons will always be visible for the sake of tracking notation. Wald's 5A is pretty unassuming. Sure, it's his fastest move, tied with 2A, but both have 8 frames of startup, compared to most of the cast's 5 frames, so it's not really good for escaping pressure in scramble situations. However, it's a really good tool for giving pressure. It lets you stagger into 5 or 2B, especially in the corner. It can also catch jumping opponents off guard because of its high hitbox. Also, while it may look like it hits overhead, it's actually a mid. 2A is better as a poke. It has the same startup as 5A like I mentioned, but it's minus 8 on block. It does have a pretty good reach though. Waldstein also has a 1A command normal. This hits low, has 9 frames to startup, and is plus 2 on block. Because of system rules, since it's a command normal, it can't chain into other normals. However, it can cancel into specials and supers, and you can stagger this cancel for a basic frame trap. 5B is the longest reaching normal Waldstein has. It can even hit at round start. It also launches on hit, letting you cancel into 2-1-4B for a basic combo starter. 2B is his only other low. Along with 2A and 5B, it's a really good poke, especially against someone expecting an assault approach. 4B is another command normal, one of my favorites. First off, it's a hit grab. The claw itself is plus 2 on block, and it can nullify projectiles for a certain period while it's active. As a note going forward, a lot of Wald's attacks can nullify projectiles, but each one nulls a different amount of hits. I'm using Hyde's 7-hit EX projectile just to show the fact that moves can nullify. Anyways, back to 4B. If the initial claw strike whiffs, it produces a small shockwave that's +4 on block. This is definitely one of my top 3 favorite moves. If you watch me play, you'll see me fishing for this sometimes, because it's just funny to hit, especially as an anti-air. Wald also has a dashing B. It does alright damage and can cancel into specials and supers. Good for closing the distance mid-combo. Now for grounded C normals. 5C is fairly strong. It also nullifies projectiles for a brief period. It's good for denying approach attempts, but at 15 frames of startup, it's not good when you're already on the back foot. You can also increase it by holding down C. This increases the startup to 24 frames, but causes more damage and knockback on hit, and moves Waldstein forward during the attack, allowing it to hit at round start. It also causes a float state on block. I'm not advanced enough of a player to know what that means, but apparently it's good. 2C is the obvious anti-air. It reaches higher and hits earlier than 5C, but it doesn't hit as far horizontally. It's also invulnerable to attacks with the head attribute, which is most jumping attacks, early on. And it can nullify projectiles for about the same period. Waldstein has 2 grounded command C normals. First is 6C. This is a 2-part move. The first part is a hit grab which throws the opponent against the wall, causing a wall bounce. If the initial hit is blocked or whiffs, there's a second part with a punch. This also causes a wall bounce on hit, though not as high. The punch on its own deals more damage than the grab, but there isn't much to follow up into, even with the wall bounce. It does hit overhead though. Also, during the punch's wind-up on whiff or block, Waldstein shifts his hurtbox backwards, which can make whiff punishing harder if you don't know the matchup. 3C is the first unblockable in this list. You cannot guard this. Now, normally this would be super impressive, but unfortunately 99% of other moves in the game are air unblockable anyways, and this can only be really hit in the air, where it's outclassed by 5 and 2C. It's super funny though. He grabs you, crushes you, and throws you into the ground. I once got into a small discussion on Twitter about why I prefer Wald in Under Night and hate Wald in BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. And one of the big things is that 3C just isn't there to hit raw and cackle at. It's also good as a combo ender after something like a high wall bounce. There's also Dash C, another funny move, another one I fished for. It's +7 on block and causes a wall bounce on hit. His air normals are pretty standard. A and B aren't really stand out. Jump A can be whiffed from an assault and lead into a mix-up between throw and low though. Air C is really good however. The hitbox is massive. It comes out on frame 15. It also nullifies projectiles. It can also be increased to cause a ground bounce on jumping opponents. It becomes slower though, which makes it more prone to being anti-aired. Waldstein also has a jump 6C and a jump 2C. Jump 6C is mostly combo filler since it wall bounces on hit, letting you get a re-jump combo. Jump 2C is a body slam. It's not that great. It's death on block or whiff, and it doesn't offer much reward, especially without meter. Oh yeah, one last thing before we get into special moves. Your eyes do not deceive you. The grappler has a projectile. B+C is his forks function, Fersenwolf. Waldstein pulls out a chunk of ground and throws it. You can influence his range slightly by holding forward or back. It uses up one section of your grid gauge if you have any, and if you don't have any, the missing section is added to your opponent's. I guess this is as good a time as any to talk about the grid gauge in Vorpal. As a small primer, you fill the grid gauge by having a strong defense, having a strong offense, or by holding D to charge yours and drain your opponent's. Every 16.5 seconds, whoever has the most grid gauge enters the Vorpal state. This state increases your damage by 10%, allows you to access Chain Shift, this game's version of Roman Cancel, which is done by double tapping D, as well as a few other character-specific things. All of Wald's Vorpal traits involve the rock. It comes out faster, has less recovery, reduces the grid cost to half a section, and lets the rock both wall bounce and clash with or nullify projectiles without getting destroyed itself. Normally you'd need to increase it to get the wall bounce there. His projectile is indeed a gimmick, but it's a funny gimmick. If you have a life lead and time is running out, you can try to lame the opponent out with this. It's honestly not recommended by any sort of guide that I've looked at, but it's still in a round or two for me. Okay, now for specials. 236 series is Ice and Nagel. A and B versions give a ground bounce on hit. A version is faster while the B version hits overhead. All C version specials in this game are EX. They spin 100 meter and give you extra properties. For example, EX Ice and Nagel gives you a wall bounce. You can also input 4A, B, or C after Ice and Nagel A or B to do a follow-up attack. It's probably better to just take the knockdown in most situations unless you have meter for an EX or are in a Vorpal state for Chain Shift. However, if the initial hit is blocked, you can use the follow-up as a mini frame trap. Not entirely recommended since it's minus 14 on block, but like a lot of things, it's funny. 623 series is Wearable Wind. Waldstein just starts swinging. Non-EX versions hit 3 times, and EX hits 4 times. A version has a higher hitbox, B starts up faster, and EX is fully invincible during startup, making it a good reversal. Alright, now for the real reasons I love this character so much. His whole kit is enjoyable for me, but there are a few moves that stand out. First off, he has a 360 grab. A version is super stubby, but it starts up in 3 frames, making it the fastest non-metered move in the game. B version reaches farther, but that gold flash means that the opponent can tech it unless it's used in a combo. What's even worse is that the gold flash means that they actually have a longer window than normal to tech. C version has startup invulnerability, but it can also be jumped after the super flash. It can't be teched though. Yeah, kinda sucks. You can also do a 720 version of all of these for a little more damage. It also leaves the opponent closer for easier follow-up. Charge back forward series is another grab. Wald charges forward, picking up the opponent and slamming them against the wall. A and B slam twice, and C slams 3 times. This move can pick up opponents that are knocked down. It's very unsafe if whiffed, and it can be jumped easily, making it super risky, but it's a pretty good combo extender, not to mention it guarantees corner if it hits. I tend to use it after 4B to get to corner. Also, it's worth mentioning, on the last wall slam, the opponent can air tech, so it's recommended to use Chain Shift if you can to combo into a hard knockdown. Now for my favorite move. Those of you that know me will probably know what I'm about to talk about. My comfort move, if you will. Let's talk about the clap. 214 series is Wearable, or as I call it, the clap. Pretty self-explanatory, why? Why do I love this move so much? Well, first off, it's a great pressure tool. All versions are plus on block, and the A version is fast enough to be cancelled from 5B, 5C, or 2C to make them safe. Second, as I mentioned, the B version is a combo starter off 5B. You can also increase the B version for a launch on a grounded opponent, though it's too slow to combo into from my testing. EX version is another hit grab. This time, Wald grabs the opponent and hits him with a suplex, side switching and causing a hard knockdown. Oh, and all 4 versions nullify projectiles. This move can also be performed in the air. It becomes unblockable. I know I've said this a lot, but this move is just funny. It's satisfying to land at the end of the round, and you'll probably hear me clap along with Waldstein in any recording when I finish with this. Oh, speaking of finish, I should probably talk about his supers. First is his regular super, done with half circle forward and D, while you have 200 meter. It's not really good. Damage is okay, but meter is generally better spent on EX for Waldstein. The exception to this is while you're in Veil off mode, done by hitting A, B, and C while you have at least 100 meter. In Veil off, you gain a 20% damage boost and the ability to combo EX moves into supers, which is usually not possible. You can do the super at the very end of the Veil off timer for an ender. His other super, Catastrophe, is done by pressing all 4 buttons while you have 200 meter and less than 30% health left. If you're in Vorpal, you lose the state, and out of Vorpal, you grid break yourself, which makes it so you can't gain grid or use any D button mechanics. Like his other super, it's really not recommended you use this. That goes double for Catastrophe, unless you can guarantee a kill with it. So, overall, why do I love Waldstein so much? Well, first, clap, obviously. Second, his combo structure is super simple. You don't have to memorize super tight links in order to be effective with the basic bread and butter. Third, he's just so gimmicky. At low levels, which is where I mostly play, people just let you get away with things. Waldstein was how I learned the fear factor grapplers instill in people. The command grab is always a single input away. I hope I was able to put across why I love the Clawman so much. I enjoyed putting this overview together. Thanks for watching, see y'all in the next one.